the stranger in his house. The night was quiet, almost too quiet. John lived alone on the edge of the colony town, where old houses stood half-broken, their windows covered in dust. He liked silence. He liked being far away from people. But tonight the silence felt heavy, like something was waiting. John sat at his table, a small lamp glowing weakly. The power often failed here, and shadows always danced across the walls. He was used to it. But then he heard it, a sound, a soft scrape, like footsteps on old wood. His hand froze on the table. He lived alone. Slowly, he stood and walked across the room. The house creaked under his boots, the sound echoing too loudly. He listened. Nothing. He told himself it was just the wind moving through broken boards. Still, the sound had been too clear, too real. When he checked the back room, he found nothing. Just crates, tools, and dust. But his heart would not slow down. He locked the door behind him, returned to his chair, and tried to forget. The next day, he noticed something strange. A piece of bread missing from his kitchen. He stared at the empty plate. He never touched it. He never ate bread in the morning. His eyes narrowed. Someone had been inside. That night he decided to test his fear. He left a piece of food on the table, then pretended to sleep in his chair. Hours passed. The lamp flickered. His eyes stayed, half open, then movement. A shadow slid from the corner of the room, small, careful. His chest tightened. The shadow moved toward the food. John leapt to his feet. The figure gasped, dropping the bread. His lamp shone across the stranger. No, not human. She was thin, her skin a pale silver blue, her eyes wide and glowing faintly like moons. An alien. She stumbled back, her arms trembling as if ready to run, but she looked weak, hungry, almost broken. "Stop," John said, his voice low. He did not raise his weapon, though his hand was close. "Who are you?" She did not answer. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Only her eyes spoke. Fear, exhaustion, and hunger. John sighed. He could see the truth in her face. She wasn't here to kill him. She was here to survive. He took the bread and placed it gently back on the table. "Eat," he said simply. She stared at him, uncertain. But when he stepped back, she grabbed the bread and ate like she hadn't touched food in days. Her hands shook as she swallowed every bite. John watched in silence. He should have thrown her out. He should have called the colony guard. But instead he felt something strange, pity, maybe even anger, not at her but at whoever had left her in this state. Finally he spoke. "You can stay, clean the place, I'll pay you, food, a little money, nothing more." She froze, staring at him as if she couldn't believe the offer. Slowly she nodded. From that day the alien woman worked quietly in his house. She swept the floor, repaired broken boards, and washed what little clothing he owned. She never spoke much. When she did, her words were soft, broken like she had forgotten how to use her voice. But her eyes always moved, scanning corners, doors, and windows, as if she expected someone to burst in at any moment. John noticed. He wondered what she was hiding, but he didn't ask. That night, after she had eaten and curled in the corner to sleep, John went to his own room. For the first time in months, he did not feel alone. The silence was different, lighter. Maybe he had done something right. But in the middle of the night, something woke him. A shift in the air, a weight on the bed. His eyes opened. She was there, the alien woman. Lying beside him, her eyes were wide, her body shaking. She clutched his arm like a child afraid of the dark. "What are you doing?" John whispered, shocked. She leaned close, her breath trembling. And for the first time her voice was clear, sharp with fear. "They found me," she whispered. "They will come tonight." John's blood turned cold. The house, once silent and safe, now felt like a trap. Somewhere outside, In the endless dark of the colony night, someone, or something, was already searching for them. Unwanted guests. The night stretched long after her whisper. John lay still, the alien woman gripping his arm as if her life depended on it. Outside, the colony wind howled against the broken windows, rattling the boards. He wanted to believe she was only scared, that no one was coming. But her wide eyes told another story, and then he heard it. A sound too heavy to be the wind. Slow, steady footsteps crushing gravel outside his house. John's breath caught. He sat up quietly, motioning for her to stay silent. The alien's hand clutched his sleeve until her knuckles turned pale. The footsteps circled the house once, twice, then stopped. Silence. Every creak of the old house felt like thunder now. John's heart pounded so loud he feared whoever was outside would hear. The alien pressed her lips close to his ear and whispered, "Hunters." John's stomach tightened. He knew the word. Bounty hunters. Men who chased the desperate, the weak, and sold them back, or worse. He had seen them in the colony before, dragging chained beings through the streets. The sound came again. A knock. Soft, deliberate, against his door. John reached for the old rifle he kept under the bed. It wasn't much, but it was something. He raised a finger to the alien, warning her to stay down, then crept toward the door. Another knock. This time, a voice followed. "We know she's in there." John froze. The voice was calm, almost friendly, but its weight pressed against the silence like a blade. The alien woman buried her face in her hands, trembling. John's mind raced. He could open the door and lie, pretend he knew nothing. But the way the voice had spoken, it was certain. They knew. A shadow moved across the window, tall and sharp. Then another. They were more than one. "Come out," the voice said again. "Give her to us and we leave you in peace." John's grip on the rifle tightened. His instincts screamed at him. He was no soldier, no hero. He should throw open the door and end this. But when he looked back, he saw her eyes. Wet, glowing, faintly in the dark, begging without words. He made his choice. John leaned close to the window and shouted, "No one's here. Leave." A pause. Then, laughter. Cold, amused. "Humans always lie when they're afraid," the voice said. Boots scraped against the wall as someone dragged something sharp across his door, carving a long mark into the wood. A warning. A promise. Then, silence again. The hunters left. For a long time, John did not move. The alien did not breathe. They stayed frozen until the night air grew still again. Finally, John lowered his rifle, his hands shaking. He sat on the bed. The alien crawled closer, her voice barely a whisper. "They will return." John wanted to argue, to say maybe they would give up, but he knew better. Hunters never gave up. The next morning, John stepped outside. The carved mark on his door was deep, shaped like a cruel sigil. He had seen such marks before. It meant the house was claimed, tagged for a future visit. Anyone who entered was warned. Danger inside. The neighbors would see it. They would avoid him. He was alone now. Inside, the alien moved about quietly, cleaning, as if nothing had happened. But her shoulders shook. Every crash of wind made her flinch. At last, John asked, "Why are they after you?" She stopped. For a moment, he thought she wouldn't answer. Then softly she said, "I escaped." John frowned. Escaped from where? Her eyes dropped. From them. From the masters. He didn't know what she meant, but the weight in her voice told him everything. Whoever she had run from was powerful. Powerful enough to send hunters into a forgotten colony like his. John rubbed his face, staring at the broken walls around him. He had lived alone for years, fighting no one, owing no one. Now in only 2 nights his life was on fire. That evening he considered sending her away. It would be the smart choice. But when he looked at her, fragile, silent, clutching a piece of bread as if it were treasure. He could not. As the sun sank, John checked his rifle, lit the lamp, and sat near the window. Outside, the world looked calm, but his gut twisted. The hunters would come again. He could feel it. The alien woman appeared behind him, silent as a shadow. She placed her thin hand on his shoulder. "They never stop," she whispered. "But you are different." John did not reply. He only stared at the mark on his door, glowing faintly under the moonlight. The night deepened. Somewhere in the distance, dogs barked. The colony slept. But John and the alien did not. They sat together in silence, waiting for footsteps in the dark, and when the lamp flickered, John thought he saw movement again, shapes gathering in the trees beyond the road, watching, waiting. The hunters were not gone. They were only circling closer. Secrets in the dark. The nights after the hunters' visit were restless. John no longer slept deeply. Every sound in the house pulled his eyes open. Every shadow in the corner made his hand reach for the rifle. The alien woman stayed close now. She no longer hid in corners or sat far away. She cleaned, she cooked what little food there was, and at night she lay on the floor near his bed. She said little, but her eyes spoke constantly. Fear, sadness, and something else. Something she tried to bury. On the third night, John woke to a faint glow. At first he thought it was the lamp flickering, but then he realized the light came from her. No, not from her body, but from something she held tightly in her hands. He rose quietly, careful not to startle her. She sat against the wall, knees pulled to her chest, clutching a small metal cube no larger than a fist. Its surface shimmered with shifting patterns, symbols he had never seen. The light pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. "What is that?" John asked. The alien flinched, pressing the cube closer to her chest. For a moment he thought she wouldn't answer. But then she looked at him with tired eyes and whispered, "It is why they hunt me." John frowned. "A piece of metal?" Her lips trembled. "Not just metal, a key." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "A key to what?" She stared down at the cube, her voice breaking like thin glass. "To destroy them." John felt the air grow colder. Destroy who? He wanted to ask, but something in her eyes warned him. This truth was heavy, dangerous. Before he could press further, the cube stirred. The glow grew brighter, humming softly, and the patterns on its surface shifted faster. The alien gasped and tried to hide it, but it was too late. A beam of light shot upward, painting symbols across the ceiling. The room filled with moving shapes, lines, stars, and paths that twisted like a map. John stepped back, stunned. "What is this?" he whispered. "A map," she said. "Hidden routes, safe paths, places where they cannot follow." John reached out, the light warming his hand. "And who did you take this from?" Her silence was answer enough. The map flickered again. This time, a sound followed. Not loud, but deep, like a pulse echoing through the walls. The alien's face drained of color. "No," she whispered. "It called them." John's stomach twisted. "Called who?" "The hunters, the masters, anyone searching. They will see this light." John's eyes darted to the window. The colony night looked calm, but he no longer trusted the silence. He snapped the cube shut, forcing the light to die. The room fell into darkness again, but the damage was done. The alien rocked back and forth, her voice breaking. "I should not have kept it. I should have destroyed it." John knelt in front of her, gripping her shoulders. "Then why didn't you?" Her eyes lifted, glowing faintly in the dark. "Because it carries more than maps. It carries proof. Records of what they did. Their crimes. Their secrets. If someone shows this to the galaxy, they will fall." The words hit John like a hammer. He had lived his whole life under shadows of power, never questioning who ruled or why. Now in his broken house he was staring at a weapon that could break empires. He let go of her slowly, And you stole it? She nodded. I was a servant. I saw things. I heard things. They thought I was nothing. But I listened. I waited. And then I ran. Her voice cracked with pain. And for the first time, John understood. She wasn't just a runaway. She was a threat to whoever held power in the stars. A single fragile figure carrying secrets worth killing for. John pressed his hand to his forehead. And now you're here. In my house. With that thing. The alien looked down, ashamed. I did not mean to bring death to your door. I had nowhere else to go. John wanted to be angry. He wanted to shout, to tell her to leave, to take her cursed cube with her. But when he looked at her trembling hands, at the fear in her eyes, he couldn't. Instead, he sat beside her. So now what? She clutched the cube tightly. We run. John shook his head. Run where? They'll track you anywhere. She leaned closer, her whisper sharp with urgency. Not if we use the map. There are tunnels, forgotten paths beneath this colony. If we move before dawn, we can hide there. John's chest tightened. Tunnels. He had heard of them. Old mining shafts, sealed and dangerous. Few who entered came out. But compared to waiting here for hunters to burn his house, maybe it was their only chance. The alien pressed her forehead against the cube. If they catch me, they will take it. And then the galaxy will remain in chains, please. John stared at her in silence. He never asked for this. He was a simple man living alone, fixing broken walls. But now the universe had bled into his house, dragging him into a war he did not understand. At last he nodded. Before dawn, then. Relief washed over her face. She leaned against the wall, clutching the cube, eyes heavy with exhaustion. But John did not sleep that night. He sat at the window, staring into the dark. And for a moment, he swore he saw something. Not hunters, not men, but glowing red eyes far away watching from the trees. The cube had awakened something, and now the night itself seemed to be listening. The first attack. The hours before dawn felt endless. John sat by the window with his rifle across his knees, the alien curled against the wall, clutching her strange cube like it was her heartbeat. Every time the wind moved, John's eyes jumped to the door, to the trees, to the road. He expected shadows to rise at any moment. When the first pale light touched the horizon, John stood. We leave now. The alien nodded, her face pale but determined. Together they gathered what little he could carry. Water, a blanket, a few tools. The cube stayed tight in her grip. Then they slipped out the back door, moving through tall weeds and broken fences toward the hills. The colony town was quiet. Too quiet. As they reached the edge of the old mining fields, John heard it, a low hum in the distance growing louder. He froze. His heart knew the sound before his mind caught up. Engines. The alien grabbed his arm, eyes wide. They come. John pulled her forward, forcing her down into a trench. A shadow passed overhead. Then another. Ships, black and sharp, descending near his home. The sound of metal striking earth followed, then a roar of fire. John's gut twisted. He didn't need to look back to know what had happened. His house, the only place he had built, the place he had lived for years, was gone. Burned to ash. The alien clutched his sleeve, her voice shaking. They will sweep the ground. We must move. John forced his eyes forward. He had no home anymore. Only survival. They ran across the cracked fields, ducking behind stone and wreckage. Dust filled the air as engines screamed above. John led her toward the mouth of an old shaft, half collapsed, hidden by weeds. He had worked in mines before, long ago. He knew these tunnels ran deep, though many were forgotten and dangerous. This way, he said. Inside, the air was damp and heavy. Darkness swallowed them, broken only by the faint light of her cube, which glowed softly as if guiding them. Their footsteps echoed too loud in the silence, but they weren't alone. From deeper in the tunnels came another sound, metallic, steady, almost like breathing. John raised his rifle, pulling her behind him. The sound grew closer, clanging against stone. Then the shape emerged. At first it looked like a man in armor, but as the glow from the cube touched it, John saw no flesh, only steel, a machine. Its head turned with a hiss, red eyes glowing bright in the dark. The alien gasped. Not hunters, they're machines. The thing advanced, each step shaking dust from the ceiling. John fired. The shot cracked through the tunnel, sparks exploding from the machine's chest. It staggered but did not fall. "Run!" John shouted. They sprinted deeper, into the tunnel. The machine's heavy steps pounding after them. The alien's cube pulsed faster, its glow scattering light across the walls. Paths split in every direction, old mining shafts twisting like a maze. "This way," she cried, pulling him left. The machine followed, smashing through stone as if the walls were paper. More echoes rose behind it, more machines waking in the dark. John's lungs burned, his legs heavy, but he kept moving. The alien ran ahead, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly, the cube guiding them. At last, they burst into a wider chamber where the ceiling rose high. Old machines and rusted tools lay scattered, abandoned long ago. The alien fell to her knees, pressing the cube against the ground. Symbols lit across the floor, lines spreading like veins of light. For a moment, the machines slowed, their steps uncertain. "What are you doing?" John gasped. "Locking the path," she whispered. The lines of light spread, circling the chamber. When the first machine stepped across, the ground shook. A blast of energy erupted, throwing it back in a storm of sparks. Its red eyes flickered, then died. The other machines halted, scanning the glowing floor. "They cannot pass." "Not yet," she whispered. John pulled her up. "Then we keep moving, before more come." They slipped into a side tunnel, the cube's light leading them. Behind them, the machines pounded against the glowing barrier, their fists striking stone, their roars echoing like thunder. For hours, they pressed deeper into the earth, through narrow shafts and broken ladders. The alien's breathing grew weak, her steps unsteady. John half carried her, his mind racing. Finally, they reached another chamber, smaller with water dripping from the ceiling. They collapsed together, lungs burning. John leaned against the wall, gripping his rifle. His voice was rough. "They burned my house. They sent machines into the tunnels, all for that cube. You said it was proof, secrets, maps, but this," Amy shook his head. "This is war." The alien's eyes glistened. "It has always been war. You only see it now because they touched your life." John looked at her, her fragile form shaking, her hands still wrapped tight around the cube. He thought of the house, the carved mark, the fire. She was right. He had lived blind, silent, while others suffered. Now the fire had reached his door. He wiped the sweat from his brow, his jaw set. "Then we fight." The alien stared at him, stunned. "You would fight for me?" John looked into the darkness of the tunnels, listening to the distant clanging of machines. He thought of the hunters, of the fire still burning where his home once stood. He thought of how alone he had always been, and how somehow he wasn't anymore. "Yes," he said simply, "I will fight." The alien's lips trembled, but this time it wasn't fear, it was hope. And somewhere in the tunnels behind them, the machines roared again, breaking through the barrier. The first attack was only beginning. The betrayal, the tunnels stretched forever. Hours of walking left John's legs heavy and his eyes sharp with exhaustion. The alien woman leaned against him, her steps unsteady, the cube still glowing faintly in her hands. The deeper they went, the colder the air grew. Water dripped from the ceiling, and every sound echoed like a warning. At last, a faint light appeared, ahead. John tightened his grip on his rifle, unsure if it was hope or a trap. But when they reached the end of the shaft, the tunnel opened into an old outpost, rusted walls, broken screens, and a single lamp burning weakly. And in the middle of the room stood a man. He wore the uniform of the colony security force, though it was dirtied with travel. His face was lined, his eyes sharp but not unkind. He lowered his weapon when he saw them. "You look half dead," the officer said. His voice carried both authority and weariness. "Come, sit. You're safe here." The alien froze behind John, her hand tightening on his sleeve. Her glowing eyes narrowed with suspicion. John hesitated. "Who are you?" "Captain Darius," the man replied. "I run patrols down here. Too many smugglers use these shafts. I heard the noise, saw the machines chasing. You were lucky to survive." John glanced at the alien, then back at the man. Something about the officer's calm tone unsettled him, but his body screamed for rest. He guided the alien to a bench and helped her sit. She would not release the cube even when her arms trembled. Darius noticed. His eyes lingered on the device just for a second. Then he forced a smile. "You're safe now. I'll get you food, water, and a place to sleep." John wanted to believe him. After fire, hunters, and machines, a human face offering kindness felt like a miracle. He lowered his rifle, though not fully, but the alien leaned close, whispering in her broken voice. "No, not safe. Do not trust." John frowned. She had been wrong before, hadn't she? Or maybe she had always been right. He couldn't tell anymore. That night, Darius gave them warm food. John ate hungrily, but the alien only picked at her plate, her glowing eyes fixed on their host. She did not speak, though her hand never left the cube. When darkness came, Darius showed them to a small room. "You'll be safe here until morning," he said. "Then I'll escort you out. No hunters will touch you while I'm around." John thanked him, though his gut twisted. Something in the man's words felt rehearsed, too easy. The alien refused to lie down. She sat against the wall, clutching the cube to her chest, her body trembling like a trapped animal. Hours passed. John dozed lightly, the weight of the rifle across his lap. He woke to a sound, soft, metallic. Chains. His eyes shot. Open. Darius stood in the doorway, 2 soldiers behind him. Their boots were silent, their weapons ready. John rose, but one soldier aimed a weapon at his chest. Darius shook his head, almost pitying. "You should have listened, friend," the captain said. "You picked the wrong side." The alien cried, out as the soldiers grabbed her, forcing chains around her wrists. She fought, but she was weak. The cube fell from her hands, rolling across the floor. "No," she screamed, her voice sharper than John had ever heard. "Please." John lunged, but a rifle slammed into his gut, knocking him to the ground. His rifle clattered out of reach. Darius stepped forward, lifting the cube. Its glow lit his face, and for a moment greed shone in his eyes. "Do you know what this is worth?" he muttered. "With this, I could buy a fleet, a world." The alien struggled, tears streaming down her pale cheeks. "You cannot use it. It carries their crimes, their blood." "It is not for you." Darius laughed softly. "Maybe not. But your masters will pay to have it back. And you, little fugitive, are worth even more alive." John's vision blurred with rage. He forced himself to his knees. "You bastard," he growled. "You're selling her." Darius's smile was thin. "Survival, my friend, you should understand. Better her life than ours." The alien screamed again as they dragged her toward the door. Her glowing eyes locked on John, filled with despair. "John," she cried, "do not leave me." Her voice cut through him like a blade. He tried to rise, but the soldier's boot pinned him down. The chains rattled as they pulled her away, her cries echoing through the tunnels. The cube slipped from Darius's grip in the struggle, bouncing once, twice, before rolling to a stop at John's hand. The glow touched his fingers, like fire. Darius didn't notice. He was too busy laughing, too busy giving orders. "Take her to the surface," the captain said. "The masters will pay well, and kill the man if he resists." The soldiers dragged her away. Her voice grew faint, swallowed by the tunnels. John sat on the floor, chest heaving, the cube's light burning against his palm. The soldiers thought him broken, defeated. But as he stared at the glowing map inside the device, something hardened in his chest. They had taken her. They had burned his house. They had tried to bury him. Now, for the first time, John felt no fear, only fury. He clutched, the cube tight, its warmth pulsing in rhythm with his heart. The soldiers would regret leaving him alive, because John had made his choice. He would not abandon her. Not now. Not ever. The rescue. The cube pulsed in John's palm like a living thing, casting faint light across the stone floor. He could still hear the alien's cries echoing down the tunnels, fading as the soldiers dragged her away. Rage burned hotter than the pain in his gut. John forced himself to his feet, every muscle trembling. The soldiers thought he was finished. That mistake would cost them. He studied the cube, its glowing lines shifting like veins of fire. The alien had said it carried secrets, maps, even power. He pressed it against the wall. The stone lit up, symbols spreading outward like roots. The air vibrated. Suddenly, the rifle of the nearest soldier sparked and died. The man cursed, striking it, but the weapon refused to fire. John lunged, smashing his fist into the soldier's jaw. The man fell hard, his head cracking against stone. The second soldier swung his rifle like a club. John ducked, pain flashing as the weapon grazed his shoulder. He rammed the cube into the man's chest. A burst of light erupted, throwing the soldier backward. He screamed as sparks raced across his armor, his body convulsing until he lay still. John stood panting, the cube warm in his hand. It wasn't just a map, it was a weapon. He wasted no time. He grabbed the fallen soldier's knife, slung his rifle back over his shoulder, and ran. The tunnels twisted endlessly, but he followed the faint echoes of chains and boots. At last he saw them. Two soldiers dragging the alien down a wide shaft, their lanterns swinging shadows across the walls. Her wrists were bound, her head bowed, but she still fought, stumbling to slow them. Darius walked ahead, the cube's glow gone from his hand. He must have thought it lost. John grinned bitterly. Let him believe it. John pressed against the wall, breathing hard. His mind raced. He couldn't take them head on, not three at once. He needed to be quick, silent. He waited until the last soldier passed, then struck. The knife slid clean across the man's throat. The soldier gurgled, collapsing before he could shout. The alien's head snapped up. Her glowing eyes widened at the sight of John. Hope lit her face, though chains still cut into her skin. The other soldier spun, raising his rifle. John threw the knife. It struck the man's hand, knocking the weapon away. John charged, slamming him into the wall. They struggled, fists and boots pounding against each other in the dark. John's ribs screamed with pain as the man landed a blow, but John's rage drove him. He smashed the soldier's head against stone until he slumped, silent. Darius turned, shock flashing in his eyes. His hand darted for his sidearm, but John raised the cube. Light exploded, flooding the tunnel. The ground shook, symbols racing along the stone walls. Energy cracked like lightning, striking Darius's weapon. The gun melted in his hand. The captain stumbled back, eyes wide. "You don't know what you're holding," he shouted. John's voice was low, cold. "I don't need to." He hurled himself forward, slamming his shoulder into Darius. The two men crashed to the floor, fists flying. Darius fought with the skill of a soldier, his blows sharp and brutal, but John was driven by something deeper. He was fighting for more than himself. He was fighting for her. At last, John pinned him, driving his fist again and again into the captain's face until blood poured. Darius gasped, choking, eyes wild. "You'll never escape them," he spat, blood staining his teeth. "The masters will come. They will burn whole worlds for her." John pressed the cube against his chest. The symbols flared bright. Darius's body convulsed, a scream tearing from his throat before silence claimed him. The tunnel stank of blood and smoke. John rose slowly, chest heaving. He turned to the alien. She knelt, chains rattling, eyes wide. "You came back," she whispered. John dropped the cube into her bound hands. "Always." Her lips trembled. Tears shone on her cheeks as she pressed the cube to her chains. Light seared through the metal, shattering it into pieces. She gasped in relief, rubbing her bruised wrists. For a long moment, Neither spoke. The silence between them was heavy, yet warm. Then John glanced down at Darius's body. "We need to move," he said. "More will come." The alien stood, still shaky, but stronger now that her chains were gone. She clutched the cube to her chest. "There is something you must know," she said. "The cube holds more than maps or power. It holds voices, messages, a call for help from my people and from others who suffered under the masters." John frowned. "Rebels?" She nodded. "Yes, they beg for allies, for humans, for anyone brave enough to stand." John's jaw tightened. He thought of his house burning, of hunters circling, of machines in the dark. His life had already been destroyed. Now only one path remained. "Then we don't run anymore," he said. His voice was iron. "We fight." The alien stared at him, stunned. "You would fight for me? For them?" John met her gaze, steady and fierce. "For us, for all of us." Her eyes filled with something new, not fear, not sadness, hope, and then faint but clear came the sound of engines above. More ships landing, more hunters closing in. John gripped his rifle, the cube glowing in her hands. Together they stepped deeper into the tunnels, no longer running blindly, but moving with purpose. The rescue was only the beginning, the claim of humanity. The ground shook as engines roared overhead. Dust rained from the tunnel ceiling, stones cracking loose. John and the alien stood together in the dark chamber, the cube's glow dancing across their faces. The sound of ships landing filled the air. Many ships. "They are here," the alien whispered. Her voice trembled, though her hands held the cube steady. "The masters have come for me." John checked his rifle, though he knew it would never be enough. He had fought hunters, soldiers, even machines. But a fleet? That was something else, entirely. Still, he set his jaw. "Then let them come." The alien's glowing eyes studied him, filled with both fear and wonder. "You do not have to stand with me. If they see you, they will destroy you too." John gave a short, grim smile. "They already destroyed my life, burned my home, took everything. I'm not standing for you. I'm standing because I'm human, and humans don't kneel." The cube pulsed brighter, almost as if it agreed. They climbed out of the tunnels into the pale morning light. The colony plain stretched wide, and in the distance a fleet of black ships filled the sky like storm clouds. Soldiers marched in lines, machines stood ready, and at their center, towering and cruel, were the masters, tall alien figures wrapped in armor that gleamed like fire. The colony people had gathered too, drawn by fear and curiosity. They whispered from the edges, afraid to step closer. None dared interfere. One of the masters stepped forward. His voice boomed through a speaker, cold and sharp. "Human, you shelter what belongs to us. Give her back, and we will let you live." The alien woman flinched, but John stepped in front of her. His voice cut through the air. "She belongs to no one." The master tilted his head, amused. "Do you think you matter? One man against us?" John lifted his rifle, but more importantly, he lifted his voice. "I am one man, but I am human, and under human law, she is under my protection. If you want her, you will have to kill me first." A ripple spread through the crowd. The colony people gasped. No one had ever spoken to the masters like that. The alien clutched the cube, her eyes wide with tears. The master laughed, cruel and deep. "Then you will die." He raised his hand. Soldiers advanced, weapons ready. Machines stepped forward, red eyes glowing. The air shook with the weight of their power, but then the cube activated. Light burst outward, projecting images across the sky. Not just maps this time. Voices, recordings, visions of the master's crimes. Entire worlds burned, slaves beaten, children taken. The evidence spilled across the heavens like fire, undeniable and terrible. The colony people stared in horror. Murmurs rose, then shouts. Rage spread like a spark in dry grass. They had lived under the master's shadow for years but never seen the truth laid bare. John shouted, his voice raw with fury. "You see them now. This is what they are. And this is why they want her dead." The crowd surged forward, no longer silent. Farmers, workers, miners, ordinary people, but now awake. Stones flew, makeshift weapons lifted. They would not kneel either. The masters roared, ordering their soldiers to fire. But the human crowd did not scatter. They advanced, shouting louder, fueled by anger and courage. John stood tall, rifle raised. "This is our world, we claim it, humanity claims it." The alien woman stepped beside him, holding the cube high. Her voice rang clear, stronger than ever. "And I am claimed too, by him, by humanity." The words struck harder than any weapon. The crowd roared louder, voices joining hers. The masters faltered. For the first time their power was challenged, not by armies, but by will. The rebellion had begun. The first shots fired. John returned fire, dropping a soldier. Beside him, the alien unleashed the cube, sending waves of light that shorted machines and blinded armored troops. The colony people charged, overwhelming, their oppressors with sheer numbers and fury. The battle raged across the field. Smoke filled the air. Fire burned. But through it all, John and the alien fought together. Man and fugitive, rifle and cube, side by side. At last, the master's flagship trembled. The cube's power surged, cracking its black hull. The masters shouted in rage as their fleet began to fall back, retreating under the storm of rebellion they had awakened. Silence followed, broken only by the cries of victory. The colony people gathered around John and the alien. Some bowed their heads not in fear but in respect. Others raised their fists, shouting their names. The alien turned to John, tears shining on her cheeks. "You risked everything, for me." John looked at her, his face scarred, his body weary but his eyes burning with fire. He shook his head. "Not just for you, for us, for humanity." She smiled then, a smile filled with hope. And as the sun rose higher, painting the battlefield in gold, John stood tall. Not a farmer, not a loner, not a man hiding in the shadows. He was human, and humanity had just taken its first step into the stars, not as servants but as leaders.